A person's greatness is determined by their thoughts. This timeless truth has been proven again and again by people like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, and Jeff Bezos. Visionaries who changed the world simply because they believed they could. Napoleon Hill once said, "What you think about, you become." But if that's really true, then why do so many people struggle to succeed? Why do some dream big yet never move forward? The answer lies not in luck, but in how we see ourselves. Let's explore this truth through a story that will open your heart and your mind. Once upon a time, in a crowded railway station filled with the noise of trains, the rush of passengers, and the cries of vendors, sat a poor beggar. Day after day, he survived by asking travelers for spare coins. Most ignored him, a few dropped a coin out of pity, and life went on the same every single day. But one afternoon, as the sun dipped low and the air filled with the sound of whistles, something happened that would change his life forever. The beggar noticed a man stepping onto the platform, tall, confident, and dressed in a sharp suit. His shoes shone like mirrors, and his eyes carried purpose. He must be rich, thought the beggar. If I ask him, he'll surely give me a good amount. Hopeful, the beggar approached and stretched out his trembling hand. "Sir," he said softly, "please spare some change." The businessman stopped, looked at him, and asked calmly, "Do you always just take from others? Have you ever given anything to anyone?" The beggar froze, his mouth slightly open. No one had ever asked him that before. "Sir," he stammered, "I'm just a beggar. I have nothing to give." The businessman smiled faintly and said, "If you believe you have nothing to give, then you also have no right to ask for anything. I'm a businessman. I believe in exchange. If you offer me something of value, I'll give you something in return. But if you offer nothing, I cannot give you anything either." And with that, the man boarded his train and disappeared. The beggar stood there, speechless. His mind kept repeating those words. If you have nothing to give, you have no right to ask. That night, he couldn't sleep. He lay on the cold floor of the station, staring at the ceiling, whispering to himself, "He wasn't rude. He was right. Maybe that's why no one helps me, because I offer nothing in return." The businessman's words echoed again and again in his mind. If you want to receive, you must first give. For the first time, he began to think deeply about his life. Days passed, but his heart was restless. He sat quietly, not begging, just thinking. On the third day, while sitting near the tracks, something caught his eye. A small patch of wildflowers blooming through the cracks near the rails. Their colors were bright, beautiful, and full of life. And in that moment, a spark lit up inside him. What if, he thought, instead of just asking, I give something in return? Even something small? He gently plucked a few flowers, arranged them in his torn basket, and went back to his usual spot. The next person who dropped a coin into his bowl, he smiled and offered a flower. The traveler looked surprised, then smiled back and said, "Thank you." For the first time in years, the beggar felt something different. Not pity, not shame, but joy. He continued doing this all day, and something magical happened. People began to notice him. Some came just to get a flower. Some gave him extra money. His basket filled up faster than ever before. He realized a simple but powerful truth. People love to receive something in return, even if it's just a flower and a smile. From that day onward, the beggar never begged empty-handed. Every morning, he picked fresh flowers and offered one to each person who helped him. His earnings doubled, then tripled. But more importantly, his heart was filled with purpose. One day, while handing out flowers, he saw a familiar face, the same businessman waiting for a train. The beggar rushed toward him and said excitedly, "Sir, today I have something to give you. If you give me money, I'll give you flowers in return." The businessman smiled, handed him some cash, and accepted the flowers. "You've learned the true value of exchange," he said. "Today, you are no longer a beggar. You are a businessman." As the train left, the beggar stood there in silence, the man's words echoing in his heart. "You are a businessman." He looked down at his flowers and realized the truth. He wasn't just taking money anymore. He was trading. People weren't giving him money out of pity. They were paying for the beauty he offered. That night, he made a bold decision. He left the station and promised never to beg again. Months passed. 6 months later, two well-dressed men met at the same railway station. One looked at the other curiously and said, "Do I know you?" The other smiled and replied, "Yes, we've met twice before, right here." The man frowned for a moment, then suddenly his eyes widened. "Wait, you're the beggar I met months ago." The flower seller laughed warmly. "Yes, that was me. But not anymore. Today, I run a flower business and I'm traveling to expand it." The businessman was amazed. "That's incredible. What changed your life?" The flower seller smiled and said, "You did. You taught me that we only receive when we give. That day I realized I was never really a beggar. I just had to change how I saw myself." The two men shook hands again, this time not as beggar and businessman, but as equals. The moral of the story is simple yet powerful. Life is shaped by how we see ourselves. If you believe you are small, you will remain small. But if you recognize your inner strength, your potential, and your worth, you can achieve greatness beyond imagination. Success doesn't start with money, luck, or opportunity. It starts with a thought. So think big, give value, and believe that you can make a difference. Because when your thoughts change, your life changes too. If this story inspired you, give it a thumbs up, comment what you learned, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Remember, you only receive when you give.